So this is part B of the Muscovy duck. So let me show you this picture. And notice the two different sizes. The male is twice as big as the female. So, you know, the female is half the size. And another interesting thing about this bird is, hi Barb, you're back. Okay, so we were talking about how they're both wild and domestic. Well, the domestics are the only domestic not derived from a mallard. So mallards also get around. These birds are not migratory, which makes it even more confusing how we got this. So where they are from in the wild is northern Mexico all the way to Argentina. And then there's also a wild group on the Rio Grande in Texas, and there's some in Florida. And hi Jerry, and these birds, they live in forests, they live in trees, that's where they spend the night. So there's no forest here. There is water. However, they prefer more of a freshwater marsh, and ours can get pretty salty. But he or she is here nonetheless. I think it's a male because it's really big. These birds are probably the largest long-necked duck in America. So it's a big bird. You can't miss him. So there's also domestic versions. Those were the wild versions that I mentioned. And they live in barnyards and parks across America. So, you know, you could see a domestic version at many of the lakes and whatnot. They are dabbling ducks as opposed to diving. So that just means they tip forward a little to eat. And what they eat is grasses, sedges, insects. They love mosquitoes. Spiders, crustacean, worms, small fish, small reptile. In the tropics, they're known for eating termites, which might explain why they need a caruncle, sticking their face in the termite holes. And on farms and fields, they eat the grain and they eat the corn. So they don't require huge bodies of water because they fly more than they swim. And that's because their oil glands are underdeveloped. So they don't require that big lake situation. So they breed in these wooded habitats, and their typical day is come down out of the tree, go find their food source, come back, take a nap in the tree, go up really high in the treetops, and they sleep in groups up there. Although typically you're going to see them in pairs, even though they're not monogamous, they still sort of hang out in pairs. The courtship isn't too exciting. The males hiss, they raise that crest on their head and shake their tails, lift their wings, that kind of thing, strut around. The males fight with each other, but it's not because they're defending a breeding territory. The females defend the territory. Let me show you a nest. Here they are in the tree. That would be the female. She's in the tree on her nest. Hi, John. They don't quack, John. The males hiss, and the females make a pip sound that sounds like a flute. So that's one of the reasons they're popular domestic, is because they're quiet, they're friendly, they're smart, and they eat mosquitoes. Let's not forget that. Here's the eggs, And I'm sorry, the printer has made them look a little like Easter eggs. If you can see that line through the center, they don't have that. That's the printer. So they're kind of a shiny off-white. And the female lays 8 to 15 eggs, which is quite a lot. And she does all the nest defense, all the sitting on the eggs, and she raises the ducklings. So he doesn't do anything. They're supposed to be excellent moms, so don't get near them if they have ducklings. And the babies let me give you this picture. They're amazingly cute. See? They look like any duck, really. So they don't get those caruncles until the males get them at 16 weeks, and the females don't get them until 20 weeks. So they start out adorable, and then they get kind of funny looking. So the babies fledge at 10 to 12 weeks. And oh, I didn't tell you, but the babies, like all ducks, they can be really yellow or darker, but you can tell by their beak a lot about their color. The blonde ones are going to have a lot more white, and the darker beak, they're going to be darker. So they fledge as soon as they can regulate their own temperature. And this is kind of sweet, but the siblings maintain strong bonds with each other even after fledging. So they'll hang out together. And let's see, they do need, I mean, right now they don't need any conservation, but they are on the yellow watch list. And the reason is that watch list is for birds at risk for extinction. And the reason they're at risk is they live in trees, and there's clear cutting in forests. There's also overhunting, and people like to eat them for their meat. And also they are going to require conservation of lowland tropical wetlands. The good news is that they use nest boxes, so when they get in trouble, we can get them to breed and use a nest box. They have a lifespan of 20 years, of course, not that long, probably in the wild. And let me just think here if there's anything that I forgot to tell you. I don't think so. Yeah. So highlights, these are one of the oldest waterfowl in the world. From way back in the 1500s, they're considered the totem animal of the wind god by the Aztecs. And the caruncle, the crazy caruncle, is that warty face, like a buzzard, like a vulture, you know. And it's not because they stick their head in carcasses, it's because they just like to keep their face cleaner. And probably because they stick their head in termite hills. The males are twice as big as the females. They are great flying birds, but in the wild, but the domestic variety is not so agile. There's a lot of difference in the color. It's mainly because the males, you know, they breed with other species, and so that makes it more confusing for you bird watchers. But you're only looking at one generation of a mix because the hybrids are sterile. And they're dabbling ducks. Their oil glands are less developed, and so they swim less than other ducks. And you know, they have the white eggs. The mother does everything, and they're on the yellow watch list. So I think that's it. I'm sorry about the repeat, but I figured that way if people don't want to tune in to part A and part B, I just say it all in B. Okay, everybody. Still working on our connections. Thank you for bearing with us. And I'll see you next time. Come to the estuary so you can see him before he's gone, because they don't migrate, so he didn't fly here from Texas. He's got to be maybe an escapee, but you never know. See you next time.